Welcome everyone, my name is Darth and I've been a student of Sims for the past few years now, but it's only been 3 months since I've been learning to trade economic events only. Today I'm going to go through a trade I took this morning on pound yen. Slim's been busy for the past couple of days with family. He will be busy over the next few weeks as well. So I want to make it clear that this is a trade that I took independently using everything I've been learning and practicing. It's a very simple process and it's something that anyone can do if they take the time to learn and practice as well. So let's jump right into it. So this is the trade. It was a trade following the news event that came out today on yens. It was the interest rate, which was followed by the press conference. We had a CPI at around 12:30 my time, but that didn't do very much. Let me just show you. So 12:30, that's when the CPI came out. It didn't do very much, but when the interest rate came out at around 4 o'clock, that moved the market across all of the yens. It actually broke higher than these previous highs, and after that price was holding, and that's when it came back into my entry, and then it took off quite a lot. It later did a really big wick which took out my entry, but at the time I only had 16% running. So let me just show you. So this is the economic calendar, and it's just to show you that we had the interest rate come out at 4 o'clock, and that's when the market moved. And the way we trade is we wait for the news to set direction, and then we try and milk that direction as much as possible. And the press conference came out at 7:30. So I wrote down on Monday what all the news events for the week were, so I knew which days I'll be looking at which currencies. So for today, for Friday, I was only planning on looking at yens, and I was going to look at the yens around Frankfurt Open, London Open, and that was the time that this trade happened. So that was around 4 days in advance. I was planning to trade today, which meant that I only really needed, let's say, a 30-minute to a 1-hour window in which to trade. And that's exactly what happened. I woke up at 7 o'clock today, and I was in the trade by 7:28, and the move was taking off by 7:30. So to go back over the trade, so as you can see, when the interest rate came out, all of the yens got weak across the board. So we had weakness here, we had weakness on Euro yen, weakness on Canadian dollar yen, weakness on Kiwi yen, weakness on Aussie yen, and weakness on dollar yen. And that started there. Following that weakness, we had the most recent, so we had price pulled back a little bit, it paused, and then it pushed again. Now I was using that as a key area to focus on, and that happened across the board. It didn't just happen on pound yen, it happened on Euro yen as well. It was this one right here, and it happened on Canadian dollar yen right there. We didn't really get, we got the pause here, but we didn't get much of a pullback following that. So I wasn't interested in Aussie yen, and it was the same for Kiwi yen. We didn't get much of a pullback, so I wasn't interested in this one. And the push on dollar yen was pretty weak, so I wasn't really interested in this one either. So the 3 pairs I was focused on were pound yen, Euro yen, and Canadian dollar yen. Now, since this one didn't push as much as pound yen and Euro yen, I just stayed away from this one and focused on these two. And then to determine which one was stronger, I went to the Euro Pound chart, and since pound is on the right and price was coming down, it was selling, so clearly pound was a little bit stronger than euro, so that's what I was going with, which was why I focused on pound yen, because pound yen was stronger and yen is weak. To go into this trade, let me get rid of this. So we know we have a 15-minute buyer based on this. He started here and he went all the way up to here. Now we want on the 3-minute, on the lower time frame, we want some sellers to be introduced because we cannot buy unless we have someone that's selling. So it was at this point where the seller got introduced, because that was the most recent buyer. He got taken out and sell came in. And then when price came down, I dropped down to the 15-second, and that's where I was looking for the rollover. And that's where I took my entry. Now I did rush an entry here. It wasn't an entry that I should have taken, and that's just a loss that I took. But the entry I did take was based on this strong buyer coming back, price holding, and then we're getting a better price, and that's where I took my entry. Price just kept buying after that, because 7:30, which was right around here, is when the press conference came out, and when that came out, price just followed with buys, and it just kept going and it kept going. In fact, it went really far, and it came all the way up to here. Now I took 50% of my position out at this point. I took another portion around here, and then I took a final portion around, not right at the top, but it was approximately here. I left 16% running, and then I left the charts. By the time I came back to the charts, we had a massive wick, which took out the rest of my position, which took me out at break even. And I'll just show you that. So here, it took me out of break even here. I'm not bothered about that though. I made 2% on this. I traded just under 0.5% on this trade, and I made 2% of my total equity on this one trade. And just to show you correlation across the board, at the time of this entry, we had all the other charts that I was looking at line up as well. So at the time of this entry, we had Euro Yen rolling over, and we had CAD Yen rolling over, and these all took off at the same time. So if I mark it 7:30, that would be right there. So if I just mark the cursor, as you can see, they all took off at exactly the same time. That's the power of news events, and it's the power of correlation. So yeah, I made most of my profits here, and then the rest that was running, that was all just bonus for me. And yeah, that's the trade. I hope you found that useful, and I will catch you next week.